down more. There we go. Okay. For years, if you asked any parent or teacher whether they thought it was a good idea to teach young children a second language, they would say no. Many believe that young children would become overwhelmed and struggle to learn their native tongue and this second language at the same time. It was assumed that their cognitive functions would get all messed up and befuddled, causing the child a harder time at developing and learning. When you look at how difficult it can be for some adults to learn another language, it is no surprise that the same would be thought of children. However, research and studies have shown that teaching children a second language at a young age is actually beneficial in many areas. Now, with the facts in front of the world, it is obvious there are only positive benefits of teaching a child a second language. I'm here to inform you of those positive outcomes that are gained from the promotion of early language education. One of the first things that becomes very evident when you look at the research is how much learning a second language at a young age helps develop your cognitive functions. Cognitive processing is the way that human beings take in information and process it. This is a very important part of the growth process, and kids who learn a second language at a young age excel in cognitive growth. Studies show that bilingual children have better reading, writing, and standardized test scores than their monolingual counterparts. New research shows that even babies less than a year old who are exposed to multiple languages show different cognitive patterns in their brain compared to monolinguals. In fact, some research argues that the best way to have smarter kids is to expose them to multiple languages when they are young. A child's brain is primed for learning a second language, and research proves this through a few facts. Studies have shown that 50% of our ability to learn is developed by the age of 4, and another 30% by the age of 8. This is why the younger you are when you learn a new language, the better, because your brain will have an easier time taking it in. Dr. Paul Thompson, a neurology professor at UCLA, and his team found that the brain systems specialized in learning new languages grows rapidly until puberty hits. Then these systems basically shut down and stop growing from ages 11 to 15 during puberty. Surprisingly, children have no trouble learning multiple languages at once. Their brain easily navigates the differences and similarities. Also, having learned another language so young makes it a lot easier to learn a third or fourth language the older you are. Because of this excelled growth in cognitive functions that a second language gives to a child, it has been scientifically proven to enhance critical thinking skills, listening skills, and problem-solving skills, along with helping concentration, memory, and multitasking skills. Children who are proficient in multiple languages have shown more mental flexibility and creativity. All of these stem from cognitive aspects of the brain. Amazingly, learning a second language at a young age is one task, but it gives you many heightened skills monolinguals will be lacking in. Brain scans show that kids who are bilingual have more gray matter in the regions of their brain that are involved in executive functions. The hypothesis is that the effort to constantly choose the right language at the right time provides a mental gymnastics for bilinguals, which gives them extra practice in focusing their attention. One thing everyone who is learning another language strives for is to sound native and to successfully pick up the accent. Experts say that children who learn a language before their teenage years are more likely than older learners to achieve a native-like pronunciation. Furthermore, research has found that kids have an innate ability to acquire the rules of any language, an ability that disappears by adulthood. And the earlier that a child learns a second language, the more likely the child will quickly attain a native-like proficiency. Many might think that young children will have trouble introducing a new language into their brain, but research shows the exact opposite. There are many characteristics about children that makes them more apt for learning and retaining a new language. Children who learn a second language before the age of 5 are using the same part of the brain that they use when learning their mother tongue, which means that this part of the brain is already active, making it easier to learn a new language, and it will make learning their mother language easier. They go hand in hand. One huge thing that slows down older learners is the fear of making mistakes. With children, however, at such a young age, they're not scared of making mistakes, and this benefits them greatly with learning new languages. Very young children readily learn through play-like activities, and at this age, children are primed for simple games that will instill the basics of a new language in their heads. Kids are also better at mimicking new sounds and adopting new pronunciations than older learners. Research conducted by Dr. Patricia Cole at the Institute for Learning and Brain Sciences at the University of Washington shows that by 8 to 12 months, babies are starting to focus in on sounds that occur in their native language and are losing their ear for sounds in other languages. However, if babies are exposed to a second language, they retain the ability to distinguish these foreign sounds. Before the age of 10 to 12, babies can differentiate between all sounds across all languages. Then, according to their exposure to languages, they start to only differentiate between the language sounds which are necessary to create meaning. Thus, if children are learning many different sounds, especially for some tonal languages, they will keep their mind open and have a broader sound bank. Another one of the benefits of learning a second language at an early age is that children think more simply than adults. They use fewer words, simpler sentence structures, and think less abstractly. So trying to create meaning in sentences will be easier. And as they grow, so will their vocabulary in the language, and their sentences can become more abstract with time. Learning a foreign language helps children see the world through different lenses. The ability to consider multiple viewpoints to a problem is a cornerstone of a creative problem solving, which is a useful skill to have. Now that I've covered why kids are more prepared to learn a second language at a young age, I'm going to talk about some of the educational and lifelong benefits that will come from it. First off, some studies have shown that people who regularly speak a second language may be able to delay Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia by up to 4.5 years. The hypothesis is that by improving the executive function of the brain, bilinguals develop a cognitive reserve, which helps delay symptoms of dementia. In respect to their education, bilingual kids definitely have a leg up on their monolingual counterparts. Research shows that kids who study a foreign language perform better in their native language than non-bilingual students, as measured on standardized tests. Other research has shown that kids learning a second language, start reading earlier, and the advantages increases the earlier they're exposed to the second language. In addition, bilingual children were better at identifying grammatically incorrect sentences than monolinguals. It is thought that those who know nothing of a foreign language know nothing of their own language. We live in a globalized society. In a globalized world, times move very fast nowadays, and knowing more than one language is a sought-after skill. One positive part of learning another language at a young age that is typically overlooked is the learned ability to accept other cultures. Children learn to welcome the differences and little things about other cultures that their native culture may not have because they have been exposed to them so often from such an early age. Children also develop an interest in and a curiosity about different cultures and ideas when they have a foundation in other languages. This makes them more comfortable growing up in our increasingly global society, where languages and cultures intersect every day. Language and culture are so intertwined that learning a foreign language both builds cultural understanding and provides deep insight into how other people see the world. Linguistic relativists argue that the way we see the world is shaped by the language we use. If you learn a second language, you automatically double the amount of people you can interact with. This can only be beneficial. When you speak to a person in their native tongue, there's a connection that happens that instantly can lead to deeper connections. In the globalized society we live in, knowing more than one language is almost necessary now for most career options. Some jobs even require knowing some sort of second language. Others just strongly ask for it. Either way, knowing more than just your native tongue can help you obtain better jobs or even get paid more at some jobs. Studies show that bilingual workers were paid almost 2% more than their monolingual coworkers. This was based off of language skills alone. Once a child learns a second language, it is that much easier for them to learn more languages the older they get. Thus, if you start a child off with one, they can keep going to further their marketability with age. Statistically, only 1 in every 8 people in the U.S. speaks another language other than English fluently. This is partially due to the fact that children in the U.S. are not required to learn a second language at an early age, like most children in other countries are. Because as the facts above show, the earlier you learn a second language, the easier it is to retain it and build upon it. As the facts and research tell us, when children learn a second language young, it only benefits them, from their positive cognitive growth to their predisposition to language learning to the future job benefits. All in all, the more languages a child knows, the more prepared they are for the rest of their life and what might come from it.